恭敬大德圣听，为此法会记一切众生，请转妙法文，教导我们如何了生脱失离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo Sadanto Suchedoye Alahudi Sammya Sanputoshe. Namo Sadanto Suchedoye Alahudi Sammya Sanputoshe. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in a million eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dhamma friends, welcome to the Sutra lecture tonight. 师父上人，各位师兄大家阿弥陀佛。We are here in the Berkeley Monastery. It is the 4th, indeed, the 4th of November. Yeah. Saturday night here at the Berkeley Monastery, we're going to be looking into the Flower Garland Sutra, the 10 Grounds chapter, continuing our sequential lecture through this text. So let's get started by invoking the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Here's the name that we'll be chanting. Please join me. Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Hua Yan Jing Hua Yan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa Na. Da Fang Guang Fu Hua Yan Jing Hua Yan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa. Nam Da Fang Guang Fu Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa. Nam Da Fang Guang Fu Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa. Nam Guang Fu Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa. Okay, here's your text, and please join me on here we go. We're now, we finished on page 18 and 19, so we're going to start on 20 and 21. Page 20 and 21. If it's too cold, if people are uncomfortably chilly, say so. Let us know. How are you doing? You kind of on the edge of a little bit on the chilly side? Can do it? Can handle it? Windows are shut, right? Oh, Phil, before you settle in, please close those windows. You just have to, slide it. There you go. This side too, we need to close those windows. This is a chilly night. That'll help a lot. We're into November, and we're right at that point where it's cold at night. It's a good time to be here in Northern California when autumn sets in. But sitting here on the floor, it can be a little chilly, and people shouldn't suffer needlessly. Okay, we're up at this page 20. We're going to be reading that first paragraph in Chinese, so if you can do that, you can read the characters, you're all set. If not, read the romanization. If you can read the Guoyin Zimu, the national phonetic, it's on the side as well, that'll do it. If all of those are challenging, then wait for the English and we'll read that together. Okay, here we go. Ready? 佛子菩萨住持第八地 Great. 以大方便善巧智所其无功用智觉 Sorry, my mistake. 功用觉慧观一切智智所行境所谓观世间成观世间坏由此业即let's see, that's 6. Let's do 6 together. 由此业即故成由此业尽故坏几时成几时坏几时成住几时坏住如此识之 Oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. Wow. I saw 如此 bad business. Here we go. One more time. Let's get it right. 皆如实知 Wow, that's interesting. My mind saw 2 different characters. Together on page 21 at the top. We're going to read this in unison. Here we go. With me. Disciples of the Buddha, when the Bodhisattva stays on the 8th ground, the effortless wisdom that comes up arises from his clever and wholesome expedient wisdom, and he uses it to contemplate the states of omniscience that he practices. Continue. That is to say, he contemplates how worlds come into being and how they perish. He contemplates the karma that accumulates in the process of their coming into being, and how, when this karma ends, the worlds perish. He contemplates when they come into being and when they perish. He contemplates when their coming into being is established and when their perishing is established. He knows all this as it really is. Okay. 10 grounds chapters, 10 stages chapter. 8th ground, 8th stage, talking about the Bodhisattva. And all of the mental struggles the Bodhisattva has been going through in the last couple pages are behind us now. We're now into the sutras describing that our Bodhisattva took the right turn. He reached the crossroads and took the right turn. His mind is now wholesome. It's been transformed. He has a future. He's moving forward, he or she. And now the sutra is going to tell us what he can do with that new wisdom. Okay? So what does it say? 佛子菩萨住子第八地. When the Bodhisattva stays on the 8th stage, here he is, here she is. You use the pronoun the way you want. 以大方便善巧智. He is now putting into practice his massive 方便 expedient. Expedient just means tuned to the need, aimed at you. Okay? Expedient for you is not expedient for somebody else. So, in other words, the Bodhisattva is here teaching us, and he's doing it according to what we can hear, what we understand. 善巧智, skillful and clever. The 巧 here means it's really amazing how it works. It's not clunky. It's not hit or miss. 巧 here means kind of like a watchmaker. You know, do you have one of those watches that mine does? I've got a see-through back in my watch, so I like, watching the thing go, and do it precisely. That's 巧. So watchworks are 巧. Jet engines are 巧. How they do their thing and the plane takes off. That's really, wow, 精巧, right? It's very wonderful. 智, wisdom, meaning seeing from the root all the way out to the branch tip and everything in between. Wisdom goes past the surface. Wisdom doesn't react to what's going on the top. The wisdom goes all the way through to cause and effect. Sees the acorn and sees the oak tree at the same time. That's wisdom. So wholesome, good, not harmful. Clever, meaning really intricate and subtle and cool. Wisdom, which is tailored to you, to what you can hear. Okay? 以大方, and it's massive. This is on a big scale. The Bodhisattva, with his massive, tailored, good, clever wisdom, 所期无功用觉会, the effortless, awakened knowledge that he now has going for him. Because remember last week, all of this started to function. The last couple lectures, we've had a comparison of what's going on inside now compared to before, and it says you can't really compare it. The Bodhisattva has gone from a bicycle to a jet plane, right? In terms of function now. Before it was, and now it's, and it's a change that happened inside him, inside her, because of his cultivation. It's a real change now, and the functions that the Bodhisattva can now do effortlessly are amazing. Hard to describe, and they're being put to use to teach now. That's what's new about this, is all of that ability is now in service to people learning stuff, being taught stuff. Okay? So the Bodhisattva is teaching with his new abilities. That's what's different here. Excuse me. 观一切智智所心境. Guan is the verb here he's looking at. Bodhisattva is now maybe like this, maybe just walking around, but the Bodhisattva is surveying. 一切智智. Wisdom, wisdom. All wisdom, wisdom. Which is to say, we have a word for that in English, omniscience, kind of. But what does omniscience mean? It's hard to know, because who do you know who's omniscient, right? It's like encyclopedias are omniscient, but even they don't know everything. So it's, what does it mean for the Bodhisattva to contemplate all the wisdom 所, that which Xing practices Jing, states. The Bodhisattva is checking out what he can do now. I'll just stick with a he. People who want to make it she, feel free to do that. Okay? Doesn't matter. The gender, it's gender free here. The Bodhisattva is now looking clearly at everything he can do. Oh my goodness. You may have some sutras with different numbers of pages in them, and check them out. Some, yeah. We're going to do it. Just, you should go all the way to 25, because we're on 20. If your sutra doesn't have 25, pick one off an empty bench there. Okay, everybody's sutra, go to page 25 at least. Okay, I had some upstairs, that's my fault. When they were extending them, I had a couple upstairs that came down and got mixed into the bunch. So the Bodhisattva is looking out now and seeing what he can do. What is he able to do with all of his brand new function? Because he's operating on all 12 cylinders right now. And now the sutra is going to tell us what that means. So, wei, guan shi jian cheng, guan shi jian huai. Okay, there's a pair here, cheng and huai. Cheng means come into being, huai means vanishing again. Shi jian, worlds. Worlds coming into being, worlds going away. Bodhisattva is watching that. Okay? You ci ye ji cheng gu. And what kind of karma is involved in order to make that happen? So it said big, massive, right? Bodhisattva is watching worlds come into being now. Okay, now let's go through to get the whole picture, and then we'll come back and describe that. Okay, so he says, that is to say, there's a colon. Here it comes. Here's what he's looking at with his new wisdom. He's looking at shi jian cheng, shi jian huai, how worlds come into being, they're born, how worlds, shi jian, a world, goes away, how it's destroyed. You ci ye ji, you ci ye gu cheng. What kind of karma made the world come into being? You ci ye jin gu huai. What kind of karma made the world go away? Okay, and then 4 questions. When did it come into being? When did it go away? When was it destroyed? When was the Ji Shi Cheng Zhu? When was it established? When was it set up when you recognized this is in fact a world? Ji Shi Huai Zhu. When did the destruction happen so that you said, wow, it's over. That world's done, right? Rutsa Shijir. Every bit of this, I did it again. Rutsa Shijir, that's so weird. I read it wrong twice here. Jie Ru Shijir. He understands it the way it really totally is. The Bodhisattva is not confused about any of this. All right. Now, take a step back. Hold on. What is a world? And that would be, that'd be a lecture all by itself. You could think about it as a planet. When I hear world, I kind of think, planet Earth kind of thing. And that's probably correct. But the sutra describes worlds within worlds. What would a world within a world be? Well, do you remember the first time you looked through a microscope? I can't. My older brother Steve got a science kit when I think he was maybe 12 or something. And I was 3 years younger than my older brother. And I didn't get the cool science kit that Steve got. And so I was like, I want to look through the microscope. I want to look through the microscope. He kept, because it was his science kit, and he knew I was going to get in there and mess with it. So I didn't get a chance until finally, I think my dad said, let him look through the microscope. Okay. So I looked through the microscope, and sure enough, drop of water on the slide, little glass slide like that. Remember? Anybody have a, golly, Mr. Science kit? Yeah. You look through, turn the thing, and then suddenly, whoa, inside tap water, right out of the tap, were all these creatures that to your unaided eye just a drop of water. As soon as you crank it up to 50 power or something, it's like suddenly little things obviously alive, swimming around inside the drop of water. Were they there before you saw them? Uh-huh. Have they always been there? I don't know. I haven't looked before. It's like, wow. Suddenly they existed. And you realize you weren't seeing the whole story before. My vision was partial. There was so much that I didn't have a clue was going on that was totally going on there in a drop of water. And then you think, wow, well, let's see, those little microbes or bacteria, what were they? They were microbial beings. They were not bacteria. What were they? Not viruses, not bacteria. What were they? Plankton? Could have been plankton. I think plankton is seawater, though. No, it's plankton is also in freshwater. Maybe it was plankton. Okay. They were small-celled creatures, right? Few cells separating, depending on the power of your microscope, and from one comes two, and from two comes multitudes. And that was astonishing, a world within a world. Now, you can go wrong if you attribute all kinds of sentience to single-celled creatures, but clearly it was living, it was moving, it had a lifespan. How much did it know? I don't know. Did it have an email account? Maybe it was already on Facebook, who knows? Bacteria.com or something. .net? .org, right? Probably organization. Bacteria.organism, there you go, .org. So, but amazing, and to realize that I couldn't see it without the aid of the microscope. And then, maybe something a little closer to hand, you don't need the microscope, is when was the last time you were out looking up on a starry night at the night sky? And, just looking. I'll never forget. The first, what was the big telescope that went up? That Hubble. The first Hubble launch was a big disappointment. Remember? Hubble went up first, and something happened so that it didn't focus the way it was supposed to. There was a big moment when Hubble was launched, and it broke away from its booster rocket, and up it went, and the Hubble telescope was an extrastellar or extraplanetary telescope. It was out in space, not bound by the planet. It worked and functioned completely by sending its images back to us on the Earth. So the first time they unveiled it and got it going, couldn't see much. Things were fuzzy. It was a big disappointment. I remember NASA was kind of, a little bit embarrassed, but the engineers, the mathematicians, the astrophysicists, the astronomers all said, just wait, don't draw any conclusions. We're going to adjust our telescope because they were prepared for problems like this. And so I remember I was watching live. I guess they kind of rolled the dice and said, we're going to fix it, watch, right? So everybody's watching live. And they sent the parameters out, and kind of like focusing your camera lens. And the moment came, and the first images from the newly adjusted Hubble came down, and they were razor sharp. And I remember the roar coming out of the Pasadena Jet Propulsion Laboratories or NASA Command in Houston, where I forget where it was, but the scientists just went, "Rawr, look, yes, It was a major victory because the images were just breathtakingly. And nobody had ever seen that level of detail that far away before. And the newly adjusted Hubble was like, it was worth every penny and more. And it was, I'm just hearing these, mild-mannered, non-emotional scientists just, yeah, victory, because the images that came back were spectacular. They were just, So there you, and it was like, gee whiz. So the microscope lets you see what's tiny big, so that you get closer to something that's tiny. And a telescope lets you see something that is vast and unimaginable, right? Not long ago, gosh, now that I say that, it must have been 4 years ago, I was invited by Professor Danny Matt, the Jewish Studies professor, late of Graduate Theological Union, recently the translator of the Zohar, the Kabbalah, the mystical text. Danny Matt invited me to join in a dialogue at Cal with an astrophysicist, Professor, I won't come up with his name, Wilson, at Cal, on 3 views of creation: the Buddhist, the Jewish, and the physics, Big Bang theory. And it was a fascinating discussion, and I learned a lot about the how modern astrophysics, meaning the guys who look through the telescopes, how much their understanding of what's going on in the universe is theoretical and unfixed. It's open to discovery. It's not the case that they know the story and that's it, The men and women who are in the trenches trying to interpret astrophysics are honest about saying, gee whiz, we think this is going on. Based on our best interpretation of what we get back, this is what's happening, but you know what? It's a work in progress. And there are definitely magical, i.e., phenomenon going on that we are just in the dark about, no pun intended, right? So, fascinating to have the high priests of science, right? Probably in terms of laboratory science, physicists are supposed to tell us what's going on, right? They're the ones who have the keys to the kingdom. And Professor Wilson was saying, yeah, we think this is the latest, this is our best version of it, but it's pretty magical. And describing the Big Bang. And the reason why they have to use language like that is the Big Bang happened before sound. There was no bang involved. And everything they're describing happened in the first couple milliseconds of the split that is now currently, they think, driving our universe at a certain velocity outwards. That it happened here and it went out, right? So, what is that? Creation. So Danny Matt wanted the Buddhist view of creation. Because why? There is definitely a Jewish historical view of creation. And it's not entirely uncomfortable with the notion of a Big Bang. Right? So there's one religious, spiritual, cultural description, the Jewish tradition, that goes back that far. Right? One of the things about Jewish philosophy, religious philosophy, is that it's old. It's been around. So they can encompass beginnings, right? In the beginning. And certainly Buddhism talks to that, but it's not a point. It's not a time. the Buddhist view is not a line. It's not, oh, now we start, now we end. It's ongoing. So I won't go there tonight, but what is our sutra talking about? Our sutra is talking about creation here. And this Bodhisattva sees it. There it is. That's what it said, isn't it? That the Bodhisattva knows when worlds come into being. But here's what's so interesting. The Bodhisattva is observing, contemplating, guan is our verb, when worlds quit. Ooh, worlds quit? Uh-huh. How about ours? We're quitting. Our world is quitting now. Now, we call it anthropogenic climate change, human-caused climate change. Yeah, all science does. Republicans in the White House don't, because it's not in their financial interest to admit that the world is for sale, that the end of the world has a price tag on it, and that price tag traces right back to their bank accounts. That's not politically and financially helpful to them. If they were to say humans are involved in the destruction of the biosphere, and to fix it, which would be in every living being's interest, it would cost them. Right? So they don't say that. Everybody else in the world says it. Everybody else affected by it. As if there was a planet B. Right? There is no planet B. Right? This is the only world we got. Anyway, that's another story. But here's the Bodhisattva who's going, look, here's a world coming into being. Chang, look at that. Here's a world going out of existence. Why? There it is. How about that? And why? The Bodhisattva's mind is now unlimited. For him or her to look now, it's not just like, oh, yeah, mums. Look at these chrysanthemums. By golly, that's what's the color? What color is this? That's pink? Magenta? What else? Could this be puce? No? Is that like light burgundy? No, it's not burgundy. What about this one? That's light burgundy. What about, that's pink. Okay, this is one of those interior decorator colors, right? With fancy names, right? That would be like drunk salmon or something like that, Embarrassed salmon, blushing salmon, there we go. If salmon can get embarrassed, that's what they turn. So look at that, my goodness, wow-y. There's coming into being, how beautiful. And the Bodhisattva would probably go something like, the sutra would probably say, okay, we take all our world and squeeze it down into, let's say this represents our planet. All right, here's planet Earth here. And let's take a tiny piece of that and get it on a 3,000 power microscope and discover that there are worlds the size of our planet all encoded within the the cell structure of a single petal. And then you go down and focus on that and you discover, oh, there are worlds opening up from that single cell of this flower, inward and inward, worlds within worlds, as they say, all interpenetrating without obstruction. It's not that one has to go away before they completely interpenetrate. That's the Avatamsaka state, and many of us, when we hear this, just like Pavlov's dog, we fall asleep instead of. Why do we fall asleep? Why do we salivate? Because we can't contain anything that threatens our duality. We live pretty much in a binary consciousness. Our minds go right or wrong, true or false, inside, outside, up, down, left, right, dark, night, dark or light, male or female, day and night, right? That's the way it has to function for us to be able to live effectively on the planet. The ultimate reality is not limited by that binary consciousness, that true, false, right, wrong, plus and zero, 1 and 0, 1 and 0. Okay, plus, minus. The Bodhisattva now has had his limitations removed. His mind and the universe are now congruent, right? So, how interesting. What has happened is the governor has been removed from the Bodhisattva's mind, right? Apparently, trains, steam engines, coal engines, electrical engines, what are trains run on these days? Locomotives, right? Need a governor because they can't go as fast as they could without shaking themselves apart or leaping the tracks. Locomotives are very powerful, and if they had no governor keeping the speed down, they could blow themselves up or run you right off the tracks or miss the curve, right? So there's a governor, which is a limiter. Governor not like Governor Jerry Brown, but limiter. A governor that keeps the speed limited, right? Neural biologists say, brain scientists say, we've got strong limiters on what we can know. Because if we remove that limiter, we might perceive it, but we can't function. We would be swamped by everything there is to know. Simple example, light. We don't see all the spectrum of light that's available to us right this minute, right? Another example, sound. Humans' ears are really limited compared to dogs, cats, who can hear so much more than we can. There we go. Now, what about radio waves? Right in this room, we have KQED passing through the Buddha Hall. I can't receive it at the moment, but if I whipped out my phone and, brought up the radio app, this device has a radio receiver in it that would find the KQED signal that's right here. NPR is in the room, but we can't hear it, right? At the moment, without my phone, I can't receive the cell phone signal that's coming right through. But as soon as I pick this up, I expect this to be able to catch that cell phone. Ring, oh, hi, how are you? Email, Wi-Fi, right? How come I can't see it? I trust that it's here. Yes, it is. Limited. We're limited, right? We're not able to pick up everything that's here. If we could, we would probably go bonkers, or we would just be overwhelmed with the amount of signal available to us. Okay, why does the Bodhisattva go through all this stuff about samadhi, all this stuff about getting his thing, his samadhi solid before that transformation happened? So maybe it's because he is amplifying his receivers. He is strengthening his ability, her ability to gather all those signals without freaking out, right? He's increasing his bandwidth. He's going from copper wire to fiber optic. We have all this available technology language and examples, right? Before, it was like, ring, hello. You could get one phone call, right? And then you discovered, hey, you know what? Wi-Fi and internet can come over copper cable. Remember when you used to route the internet over your phone and you had to have one or the other? And then we discovered that if you had a T1 trunk line, oh my goodness, that was glass, it was fiber optic, and it could carry so much more bandwidth. Only companies could afford it, large corporate entities. Most homes didn't. Then came cable. And sure enough, if you contracted with a cable provider, you could have telephone and TV and internet all in a single contract, right? How wonderful that was. And suddenly you can download Netflix and still make a phone call at the same time and watch TV and all that neat stuff. Then we leapt off of cables altogether into wireless. Oh, I remember when that was just incredible idea that you didn't need wires. Cut the wires. Now, what's next? Probably some combination of biological chip. Probably the palm top will be your palm top, right? Hello? Beep, 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 beep. Busy. Answer your phone. Who knows, right? So the next frontier will probably be internal, biological chips. Don't quote me, all right? I'm not responsible, but that's would be logical. So what about that? The limits keep getting pushed back further and further. Here's our Bodhisattva who, without the aid of copper wire or fiber optic cable or commercial cable or Wi-Fi, the Bodhisattva is able to receive everything that's out there, the entire signal, right? The signal never stops. Anybody see the movie Firefly? The signal never stops, remember? So it's your mind, it's my mind, used according to the Dharma at this level. Here's the Avatamsaka Sutra telling us what the mind is capable of. Once you put it in the Dharma mold and do it rufa. This is what Shila Samadhi Prajna allows you to do. It's called Wu Gong Yong Hang, effortless practice. That's what the Bodhisattva has accomplished at the level of Avaivartika. No further retreat. This is Wu Sheng Fa Ren, patience when dharmas no longer arise. It's the third kind of patience that the Bodhisattva encounters. And Master Hua says this is the second most important turning point, second most important landmark of the Bodhisattva's practice. The first being the Bodhi resolve. When you resolve to realize Bodhi, that's the first big turning point. Then it's only a matter of time and practice before you get to no further retreat, Avaivartika Bhutoi, which is also called the third kind of patience, patience when dharmas no longer arise. If you can get there, this happens to you, and suddenly your governor is gone, and you're able to receive everything that's out there without losing track, without losing your signal, right? Very cool. And here it is. And nobody in medical science is interested because it's, number one, it hasn't been available unless you read Chinese or Sanskrit. That's one. Number two, who has ever gotten anywhere close to this in reality, to cultivate, to report on it, right? But here it is. And what's different about us, what's different about Master Hua and his approach to it is we take it practice-based instead of philosophy-based. In the past, when the Avatamsaka was touched, people went, oh, it's Buddhist philosophy, it's so lofty, nobody can understand it. Don't bother. It's Buddhist philosophy. And Sherfo comes along and says, actually, it's philosophically, it's available through a philosophical lens, but if you put the practice lens on it, it becomes your next thought. It becomes a mirror for your altruistic development as the finest possible human being. This is humanity at its most refined, and it's an old pattern. This is not new. This is maybe one of humanity's oldest templates. When do you date the Avatamsaka Sutra? It's been around since the Buddha, right? And the Buddha would say, I didn't invent it, I found it inside. It's always been there, but nobody cultivated the doors to get there. Here it is. You got it. You're hardwired for it, but you have to plug in and actually do the hard work of wading through your knees on fire before that discriminating governor loses some of its hegemony, some of its bossness on top of you, bossing you around. Being the only game in town is the self-doubter. Now, when is it raw and crude? Let's say women saying to themselves, oh, well, I suppose I could always get married. I could be John's husband. You know, what do you want to be, little girl, when you grow up? I want to be a housewife. You know, what's wrong with being a housewife? Nothing. But if that's all, then you've been bossed by the governor in your own mind, right? What do you want to be, little girl? I want to be an astrophysicist in the Buddhist mold so that I can go through the gate of no further retreat and pick up the entire signal of the universe and understand everything there is to know and realize ichie zhi zhi. I want to know the wisdom of all wisdoms. Oh, well, congratulations. Just try your best. And you, little girl, what would you like to be? I'd like to be a nurse. Good for you. We need nurses. So, young man, how about you? Oh, I suppose I could, I don't know, I could get a season ticket for the Warriors. I could be by courtside and cheer them on. You know, yeah, go for it. You know, kick butt, dude. You know, why not? That's good. We need more butts. No, we don't. I could buy a machine gun and kill a lot of people too. But you got to be an old white man to do that. You know, not everybody can. So, yeah, low self-esteem is a raw oppression by the governor. Our Bodhisattva, clearly, when he got to the 7th and 8th ground, had a subtle level of that governor saying, you can't. You can't. And the Buddhas came to say, you know what? You can and you must. Keep going. Don't stop. Keep going. Don't go left. If you go left, you stop. You reach a stage called wan kong, right? A state that is called dull and empty. And it's a nirvana. It's a high state, but you don't go past it, right? Go right, go right, go right, say the Buddhas. Go, go, go. Ra, ra, ra. And the Bodhisattva does, and whoosh, that transformation happens. The governor yields, and that samadhi reads everything. The entire signal is available. How interesting, right? Now, let's slap some Christian language on it. What happens? You see the face of God. Here, right? That's good Christian language. And that is language that has been used by the saints. St. John of the Cross. You know, mystics of Christianity and Judaism see the face of God. The Jewish version of it would be Ein Sof, is one with your mind, all in all, right? So people have been talking about this. Now, is it the same? Of course not. I can't crudely say that it's the same because it's not my state. But what does it take to be able to see a world Cheng and a world Huai? You gotta have some big perspective. Okay, now, what kind of karma goes into making a world come into being? Are we talking at the level of plankton on a microscope slide? Or are we talking at the level of a star going nova? Right? What, anybody follow what they say about what are the mathematical possibilities of there being another habitable planet like ours, anywhere near like that we could reach in a lifetime? There's, you know, I've read something about multiple tens of thousands of possibilities, that all the conditions would be there for what most important is water, that water would be there. And if water is present, life, something similar to ours, has a possibility. So the idea that, oh, we're out here alone, there's no other possibility of human or other species life in the universe, ridiculous, totally not. Whether it's close to us is hard to say because the nearest star is light years of travel from ours, right? I was reading the other day Who was the shoot? I should have more facts before I pull this one out. It was an article about one of the astronauts who spent the longest time in the space station. I've forgotten. Shoot, I won't be able to come up with it. And he had a very hard time readjusting. Sleeping was a problem. Appetite was a problem. His deeper processes, metabolism, digestion, it was like the world's worst case of jet lag. And people are saying, their conclusion of the article was, it may not be so simple to say we're sending people to Mars, the nearest planet to us that we could possibly reach. You can't get to Venus, can't get to Mercury. So it may not be so simple to just say, oh, we're going to send a human being to Mars, because of the wear and tear it takes on our system when you come back. How many people, how many astronauts would be happy to go out and say, I'm not coming back? I'm just going as far as I can to, that's the stuff of movies, right? Starring Harrison Ford or somebody, So yeah, most of us would want to come back. And if we go out and come back, and then when we're back we can't stand it because we're all messed up with the rhythms and that's what they're discovering is it's hard coming back. It's jet lag plus. So, interesting. Okay, now, 由此业即故成. What kind of karma is required to come together for the planet, for the world, 时间, the world to Chang? And what kind of karma is required to Ji, to come together for the world to Huai, to go away? In the sixth ground, on the sixth ground, the sixth stage, the Bodhisattva was learning Pratitya Samutpada, that great Sanskrit name, which is conditioned arising. That things come into being when conditions link up. And if you have this one that works, then that pulls this one forward. And this one over here pulls this one forward, and then that one pulls that one forward. And it exists. And when this no longer links, it's over. It's over. This is a completely subjective story, but this is my own experience. I'll tell it because it's my experience. I first got to the Bay Area in 1969. And I was a junior in college. And I went to Taiwan, and then I went to Japan. And I came back in 1970. And on my way back, I stopped at my classmate Martha's place in Palo Alto. She was a student at Stanford, a grad student at Stanford. And she had a yellow Volkswagen Beetle. And she said, oh, before you go back to Toledo, since you're here now, let me drive you over to the coast. So we got in the yellow Volkswagen Beetle in 1970 and drove out the back way of Palo Alto, up Page Mill Road, Skyline Boulevard, over the top, and then down. I think we went to Half Moon Bay and drove around Woodacre, through the redwoods over there, and then back to Palo Alto. And my impression of Northern California was that it was blessed with some kind of pixie dust. How's that for a scientific description? There was some sort of gleaming coating on the green hills of Northern California that was magical. And it just seemed, especially going up over Skyline, then over the top and then down, there was something very, very special about that landscape. It was lush, it was untouched, it was the California that we would sing about, if you're going to San Francisco, that kind of California. California dreaming on such a winter's day, right? It was that kind of California. And to say fresh or innocent, that's totally subjective, David, you know what I'm talking about? You were around California. It's like, yeah, it was really magical. The Golden State. The Golden State was there. And recently on that same drive, it's not the same. Things have changed in the 40 years since I first drove over those hills. And the gleam is gone. That layer of sparkly fairy dust, pixie dust, is gone. And it's just too many people, too much pollution, too many cars, too much noise, too much dust, the worldly dust in the minds of the people who moved in to keep it for long. But I'll never forget that feeling of looking out the window of that Volkswagen and just feeling something like that thick on the hills. And it was life-giving and gleaming, something very special. The fact that it's gone now says to me, 时间坏, that the world is in decay. You can see it by what's not there any longer. Some people have said that we're entering a phase of death, how dramatic, of the planet. And if you think about it, what would that mean? What does it mean to say that the earth is dying? When, and this is kind of raw, but there you go. When men and women want to procreate, we want to propagate our species, and there is some risk of, by doing so, you pick up a fatal disease. That's the planet entering a different phase, right? Talking about AIDS and things like that, sexually transmitted diseases. What is it? It's the act of reproducing our species carries with it a risk of death. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So that's where we are, and you need to protect yourself, right? What about and here this is even more medical, but there is evidence now that in men, the sperm count is decreasing. That young boys are not fertile the way they were 2 generations ago. Okay, says doctors. This is medical. Check it, look it up. Why is that? Well, some people say it has to do with the hormones in the milk. Bovine growth hormone, right, which has been injected into the udders of cows for some time now in order to increase the yield so that you can sell more milk for the same cow. That goes into the bodies of people who drink the milk from that cow, and it's a bovine recombinant hormone which increases the estrogen in boys, which is not what boys should have increased. And the result is a decrease in the equivalent male hormone, testosterone, etc. So the actual physical count of the number of masculine creators is less than it was. And other physical changes happen in the bodies of young boys as a result of imbibing this female chemical by unscrupulous dairy producers who want to make more money. Check it out. Kind of scary if you're paying attention. When did I hear about this? VegSource.com, Healthy Lifestyle Expo, down in LA, where the doctors talk about get the milk out of your diet, especially out of your kids' cow's milk. Humans should not be imbibing, shouldn't be drinking a fluid that is meant to take a baby cow from about 80 pounds at birth to 1,000 pounds in about 12 months. That shouldn't go into human bodies. That fluid is there to make a small calf grow into a big cow. How come we stop drinking our mother's own milk at a certain number of months, but you need 3 glasses of cow's milk the rest of your life? Says who? Says the Dairy Association. Not doctors. Okay, now my preaching, you betcha. If it has to do with the longevity of the human species, yeah, let's all wake up together. Okay, Dr. Spock's baby book? Not Mr. Spock. Wait a minute, there we go. Not Mr. Spock, Dr. Spock. Dr. Spock's baby book. My mother swore by it, as did every woman of her generation, right? Dr. Spock, advice for moms raising babies. Okay, Dr. Spock's baby book, maybe somebody can check it out later. I think it's in its 22nd printing or something like that. It's been the standard for raising your kids in America. All right, if you had a question about colic, you had a question about, rashes, Dr. Spock. It was thick and well thumbed in my home. Dr. Spock recently, if there is a Dr. Spock who's still publishing the book, his name is given to that institution, right? Dr. Spock's baby book for the last 3 or 4 printings has said, given all the evidence, the optimal amount of cow's milk we recommend for feeding human babies is 0. Dr. Spock's baby book is saying, do not feed cow's milk to children anymore. It is not wholesome. Especially because why? All this new evidence is coming out. African American babies do not do well on cow's milk. Asian babies do not do well on cow's milk. Why? It's called lactose intolerant. Okay? You start looking around the planet, southern hemisphere babies do not do well on cow's milk. There is one particular ethnic group that does well on cow's milk, Northern European Caucasians. Dutch, Swedish, German, right? Celtic, that's to say British, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, right? My people can drink cow's milk without there being a nasty reaction, right? You force cow's milk on kids who have the wrong intolerance from African America, from African nations, genetic, they don't do well on cow's milk. They don't have a certain genetic strain that allows them to digest it. The dairy industry says, gotta have it. Got milk, does a body good, right? All these expensive slogans that they pay for on Madison Avenue to convince you that if you don't drink milk out of cows, you're unhealthy. BS, right? Now, one difference. Indian children do not have the American Dairy Association messing with their milk. Dr. Vasant Lad, Dr. Ladd, expert Ayurvedic doctor, personal hero of mine, had his calf from childhood, grew up with his calf, raised his calf, grew the grass, the special kind of grass that he hand-fed his calf, from which he got milk, from which he made ghee, The finest of medicines. All right, another story. The Indian relationship to cows is a very different one than the North American relationship to cows. So we're not going to discuss Indian milk. It may well be pure, right? I hear that. So we're talking about the American experience where most people, if you allow them, will tell you, yeah, I don't do well with milk. I always had this funny kind of gaseous kind of, colic and bedwetting and problems with milk. Why? Because you're lactose intolerant. But they feed it to you at school. Got to drink it, got to drink it. Turn that big advertisement in your grade school classroom over that shows milk as one of the necessary food groups. Who paid for that full-size poster? The American Dairy Association. That is an advertisement right there on your elementary school bulletin board. By golly, that hoax has been perpetrated long enough. Dr. Spock's baby book says, don't feed your kid milk, cow's milk anymore. Do feed your kid mother's milk, a wholesome food. Never mind the DDT in mother's milk. Another story. You fight the battles you can win, right? So cow's milk is not a wholesome food for most of the humans on the planet. If you have that funny genetic strain that Northern European Caucasians have, you can pretty much digest it, but it's still not recommended. Okay, how did we get here? What was the path by which we got onto this rant? But talking about watching worlds go bad. Why? Right? When he contemplates when their perishing is established. We're in a world cycle, we're in the cycle of our world now, when you can see the destruction taking place around you. Acid rain, when it rains and grass dies, right? Anthropogenic climate change. I grew up in Toledo, where if you look at the Maumee River as it flows into Lake Erie right now, what's the recommendation? Don't drink that water. Don't swim in the Maumee River. You will come out with a rash. The water is green. Right? They're having these symposiums in Toledo. What are we going to do about Lake Erie since we're all drinking water from Lake Erie? What about Flint, Michigan? Oh my goodness. They basically wrote it off. Sorry. Poor people don't have a choice. They got to drink that water. They can't afford bottled water. Toledo has got some very hard decisions ahead. The agricultural runoff from upstream, which goes into the pockets of a few companies, right, goes into the water and fosters the rapid growth of algae. It's called algal blooms, toxic to every living thing. The fish, the turtles, the birds that eat the fish, right, and then the humans, etc. How about that? We're in a phase of the planet where human behavior is killing it. Go in the ocean and find fish. You'll have to look far and wide. China, how much fish does China eat? Does the people of China eat? A lot of fish. Where do the Chinese fishing fleets go now? Africa, because the East China Sea is fished out. No more. Why is China so friendly to Africa these days? So they can get the fishing rights, so they can bring the fish all the way back to China and feed the hungry Chinese who want to eat 红烧鱼. 必要吃了. You didn't know that the fish that you're eating now speak Swahili. You didn't know that. They speak the click language, right? Osa, right? Oh boy, true, gone. What are the Japanese going to do? Japanese have a problem because they depend on fish, and the fish are gone. We're all going to have to eat avocado sushi because bonita sushi is going to be history, right? We're in the huai phase of our planet. Signs are everywhere. And yet we go on. As long as we can download Netflix, we're happy. Right? We just spend all day, yeah, oh, no kidding. Oh, yeah, huh. I see the president's threatening atomic war with the country. Okay, I hope they work it out. Meanwhile, I got to keep up with let's see, hey, the Warriors are playing tonight. Keep them happy with bread and circuses as the world burns down around us. What if you come back tomorrow morning and your house is burned down? Who are you going to call? Who do you shake your fist at? Nature? Gee, nature's full of fire these days. Tell it to stop. We're in the huai phase of our planet. So, what does a Buddhist do? I think as the outside reflects the inside, so maybe if we find a way to reduce the fire inside, maybe the fire outside will find a balance. Nothing's wrong with fire unless it's out of balance. Suddenly rolling over the hill faster than you can run. They said those flames were coming down on Santa Rosa at 18 miles an hour. How fast does Usain Bolt run? How fast does a horse gallop, right? Those flames are coming faster than you could run away from them. Whew, boy, that's out of balance. So how do we make a fireproof humanity? How do we fireproof humanity? We have to somehow get water in our nature back to balance. That would be a Buddhist response, is to say, if you want to fix the outside, look inside. So are we burning in Northern California? We are. How do we balance it? Well, less anger, for one. More compassion, more nurturing. Less kick butt. Fewer movies. Anybody want to see the culture of death in our planet? Go check out the top 10 films tonight. How many of them have to do with giant killing machines that you can't stop unless you have some superhero person, right? Check out the top 10 video games. Death, right? Try to sell a video game that has to do with nurturing, with kindness. Won't find it. Interesting. So there we are. The Bodhisattva says, yeah, that's part of it. They go chung and they go huai. Right? They come into being, they go away. That's natural. Well, here we are in the downward phase. So what do we do? Well, take responsibility. Say, yep, I can't leave it. Think you can leave it? No, we're here. So what do? We open to it, bring it in and balance it. Balance it in your heart. You know what's going to come up next in the sutra? It's so interesting. 又知地界小相大相无量相差别相. Also he knows the lesser characteristics of the earth element and its greater characteristics. He knows the unlimited characteristics as well as the varied characteristics of earth. What's the Bodhisattva going to do? He's going to balance it in himself. He's going to dig into his own nature and start to work with the elements. What is wrong right now with Northern California that we can see? Well, fire came right into the human realm and burned. I mean, if you were If you were a rock, maybe that fire wouldn't bother you. Who cares about a forest fire? Well, we do, because it went into where people live. If that happened out in the farmland, as it does regularly, happen out in the forest, there weren't any people there, we would go, oh, okay, the fire is 25% contained, 75% contained, it's over. Forget about it. Unfortunately, this time, it burned where people are, including the animals and their vehicles and our stores. And we look at all of that exclusively from a human point of view of gain and loss, right? This time it burned into people, and we lost stuff, including our lives, including our belongings, which is harder to encompass. It's out of balance. And our Bodhisattva goes right to the elements next, interestingly, right? It's going to be, next is the water, and then tiny particles of dust, etc. We're going to be with this for a while now. And here's the Bodhisattva saying, right, I identify with all living beings now. There, we call it Tong Ti, Da Bei, same body, great compassion. Our Bodhisattva is going to become an environmentalist, an ecologist of the most intimate, personal kind. He knows as they are the Da Xiang, the Xiao Xiang, Da Xiang, Wu Liang Xiang, Shi Bie Xiang, the features, the characteristics, the Xiang, the attributes of earth. And you know where he's going next, water, fire, and air, right? The little features, the big features, the limitless features, and the very distinct features, the tiniest and the biggest of earth. Because why? He's going to take responsibility. He's going to heal that balance, put it back where it belongs. Okay, so, neat. I dig it. The Bodhisattva is going into, he is becoming the environment. His body is becoming a world. And from there, you can heal it, right? You can make it right when it's wrong. Okay, we're going to aim for 9 tonight, finish, but I wanted to share something. We heard today was a university board meeting, and we're on our way to Taiwan again. Last 4 or 5 years, we've been going to Taiwan every year. This year, we're going to meet up with a friend, a musician, see if we can bring music and the Dharma together in a new way. And there's a huge number of wonderful Buddhist songs in Taiwan that began as Tzu songs with our friend Dharma Master Zheng Yen, which I've really learned to like and translated some. I wanted to share one of them. Okay, it's called Prayer, and this apparently was a Dharma talk that was floating around Tzu until some of the great lyricists and tunesmiths of the Taiwanese Buddhist world put a melody to it, which I really like. It's called Prayer, Qi Dao. And the fun part for me is taking the original Chinese and using the same melody and turning it into English. And then asking people which one came first. See if you can tell. I'll do the English first and see if you think it's a really nice song. Fill my heart with sincerity. Fill my still thoughts full of gratitude. Lift our hearts as one in prayer, every nation, everywhere. Make a world of peace and paradise. Fill my heart with sincerity. May my thoughts accord with Buddha's mind. Pray with hearts and minds as one. Change my evil thoughts to good. We can end the world's calamities. Pretty good, right? I mean, it's an English song, right? Anybody know this first singer? Who was it? Cynthia, you'd know. His name came up today. Yin Jung Yang. Okay, good. 我的心在静思中感恩，我的信念充满虔诚。大家一心来祈祷，从不同角落地点，祈求平安吉祥满人间。我的心在静思中感恩，我的信念常打诸佛体，大家心口意念，化解恶念结善缘，祈求天下无灾岁岁年年。With a prayer from my heart, may the lamp of wisdom carry on. May its pure and brilliant flame light a pure and boundless love as a beacon for the world. Isn't that work? Isn't that nice? Let a prayer from our hearts join our hands and heal our minds with a radiant, selfless love. Blessings, virtue, wisdom grow to light up the sour world. 我的心在静思中感恩，我的心上，我的心念上大诸佛心，大家心口意念，化解恶念结善缘，祈求天下无灾岁岁年年。That's a really good song, and it deserves to be some. Nobody over here clapped. What's with it? Oh, yes. So, it should be circulated in English because people don't know that that's a Taiwan. It's written in Taiwan, originally, and that's a good song. That song works. There's the Buddha's mind appears, but you could slip in Jesus in there just fine, and nobody would know the difference. So I've got a bunch of those. Yin Zheng Yang is one of my favorite. He's a high tenor, and they called him. His name was Johnny Yin when he was doing pop music, but his pop music was always really restrained and subtle. Then he got religion, and he followed Master Zheng Yan, and his best songs were in his second career. There are a few that I simply can't sing. They're just too high. I can't get to where he goes. But he's got some wonderful songs. So we'll see if there's any affinities with Yin Zheng Yang. Actually, we need the guitar. We're going to transfer the merit. Guanyin Bodhisattva session at City of 10,000 Buddhas. Tying up the boundaries tonight. Our Sangha members are going up to be there all week, reciting the Pumanpin, reciting the Guanyin Bodhisattva's name. If people have not had a Guanyin session at CTDB, I highly recommend it. Go check it out. So that's all next week. Everything here will be as usual. Tuesday night, the monks from Abhayagiri are coming. I think Ajahn Jyotipalo, I believe, is coming. So if you haven't heard them talk, please do come and listen. They'll probably tell stories from the fire and the recovery, I suspect. Then, let's see. Doug's class was last week, so it's not going to be this week. Right, Mr. Yap? Doug's class, Yijing Shangli Baba. Not Monday? No, because Doug's going to be at CTDB. Yeah, so following, yeah. What's that? Time change, thank you, yes. Daylight savings ends, so we go back. Spring ahead, fall behind. So you gain an hour. You can snooze another hour tomorrow. Change tonight. Yeah, like 2 a.m. or something. So put your clocks back. Jerry.
So we start to release lectures from
Okay, if people go to Dharma Realm Live, you will find the lectures from Buddha Root Farm available. We're putting them up one by one. Jerry's and other folks have been working hard to edit some of the lectures and songs, right? So, Dharma Realm Live on YouTube, have you found it? That's our YouTube channel, Dharma Realm Live. And we have this lecture series is published, Marty's lectures on Friday night, Ajahn Pasano's talk at CTDB, Jinpo Shi's talks here, and now the Buddha Root Farm talks. Dharma Realm Live is expanding, more material, stuff. Alrighty. So, with that in mind, we'll see you all next week, and let's find out how the Bodhisattva merges with the environment to heal the world as it huai, or as it cheng. In this case, unfortunately, for us, it's the huai phase. What do we transfer merit for? You could transfer it for a balance between the four elements. they're out of balance right now. And since we live here, let's contribute to rebalancing, to the health and the harmony of it. Send out your merit from listening to the sutra, bringing this sutra to life. Just how important is the Avatamsaka Sutra to tell us that there is something you can actually do? The action is in the mind. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward, may all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, as they say, 识道之进，非道在退。在善而从，不善而改。You tell yourself through your wisdom whether it's the Tao, and if so, advance, and if it's not the Tao, step off it and go back. Amen. See you all next week. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Namo